What's going on, everybody? Chris Daly here with Big City Escape. The Liberal government has done it again, further extending their outreach and banning an additional 179 firearms, adding to the list of the seemingly never-ending growing list. Since May of 2020, I think they've banned more than 2,500 firearms from law-abiding legal gun owners. Absolutely insane. But today we have a very special guest, Danny DeVito. Danny, come on over. Mr. DeVito has made it very clear that he does not wish to comment on any of this nonsense, but he will keep me company while I comment on it. So again, we're back with more firearm bans here in Canada. I can't for the life of me understand this because it doesn't make sense. There's nothing to understand. Today at my office, I was speaking with a large group of accountants from my accounting department, all of which are non-gun enthusiasts, and even they, being super analytical people, can't seem to understand how this makes sense. And I think one of the things for me that outrages me the most is that it always seems to circle back to a public safety thing. Guys, this is not a public safety thing. There is no data to suggest that legal gun owners of these assault style weapons, which again, that bugs me in itself. Why and how the heck are these considered assault style weapons? 5-round capacity mags? Come on. And for them to say these weapons are designed to kill people and cause as much damage as possible in the shortest amount of time, to me is just like beyond a false statement. Like these aren't battle ready weapons. They're not. Like we're talking about 22 caliber rifles, which I just can't understand that, man. Like I own a pellet gun that has more velocity than all of my 22 rifles actually. The little sucker shoots like 1,500 feet per second. Like she's a little ripper. So again, another liberal wedge move. And I can't quite understand this. I think they put themselves into the hot seat with kind of like initializing this campaign to prohibit more weapons, with hopes to grow popularity in the polls. They initiated this buyback program. They've initiated this buyback program, going after the retailers and so forth first, and now they've made like real strong-armed attempts of working with different policing agencies throughout the country to come like literally confiscate, because that's what it is. It's a confiscation. It's not a buyback. Like, let's be honest. You can't buy something that you've never owned. We bought these, so you're essentially making us sell them to you with, at a fair market value, which to me is fucking unbelievable. We've done everything legally. We've put in the time, the work, the effort, to go out and obtain our firearm licenses and to pick firearms that we enjoy shooting, whether that be for sporting or hunting, or just collecting. Right? We have the right to do that, and the Canadian government would argue that you don't have the right to own a firearm and that it is a privilege. Which I just don't agree with that. Whether that's true or not, I just, as an individual, I don't agree with that. It's not like we just get these licenses out of a Cracker Jack box, right? And we're exposed to criminal background checks daily when you're a firearm owner. And I would argue that legal gun owners are among the least likely to commit any offenses, whether that be criminal or even traffic offenses, man. Like, so that gets super frustrating for me. And yet here we are again, another 179 firearms that will be banned, or that are currently prohibited, as of effective 11 o'clock, I think, this morning. So it's what's really hard to understand. And there were some comments from the Liberal government like a week ago in response to the whole, tariff thing, and, essentially saying like, I don't know the extent of this, so I don't want to speak out of my ass, but I know that was in the context of, well-armed and trained independent militias. Like, in other words, like I interpreted that as like, citizens need to be able to fight for their country, which like is fucking absurd. Like, what are we talking about? Like our brothers and sisters south of the border? Like, we love Americans, man. Like, this is just insane how the current Liberal government, and then of course our orange friend over there south of the border, I just can't understand any of this nonsense that's going on. But one thing I can understand about the Trump thing is that I put some thought into this today, and somebody even pointed it out. Like, you you initiate a tariff threat, you watch the you watch the stock markets crash, and then you say, okay, never mind, we're not going to do it, or we're going to hold off for 30 days, or whatever the case. And you kind of watch the stock markets bounce back. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but I do know this. This is how the rich get rich. It is, So thinking about Mr. Donnie over there, and I'm like, man, is this like all a shame to like yeah, anyways, I don't even want to get into that. But anyways, here we are in Canada, losing all of our firearms, and it is beyond frustrating. There's a couple of groups out there that are big advocates for, firearm rights, despite, the Canadian government looking at it like that it is a right, but they are fighting for our rights, and they're making noise, and I appreciate organizations like that. Um, so I think at this point, all I can say to do is like go down to your MPs, go advocate, even if you're not a firearm enthusiast. Like if you really think about, the overreach of the government, regardless of what the issue or the topic may be, because again, like they're targeting legal gun owners and they're using like these pretext events that like, they're super rare. They're like they're the exception, not the rule. Like they're so rare, man. Like I think they've listed like three of these, like in Canadian history, of these like mass shootings, um, among some other kind of data that they've tried to put out. But we all know any fire, or I shouldn't say any, but like the majority, like high majority, 99%. I would go out on a limb to say is that any gun crimes that happen in Canada are from illegally obtained weapons from criminals that are getting it from the United States into Canada. Um, yeah, man, like, crimes at a high, we're being de-armed. There's all these weird uncertainties throughout the whole international kind of like relationship world. Like, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now, and it just feels super unsettling to me that's even like a forefront on their agenda is to like this buyback program. Like you have way bigger and more pressing issues going on on the national stage to be, or in the international stage to be worrying about like me about my firearms. It is insane. Anyway, I'm gonna play a clip from today and let you hear what she has to say. And I couldn't even watch the whole thing because it was like infuriating to me. And then on the same time, she like contradicted herself. She made the point to say this is like a huge initiative for public safety. Like they always do that. The liberals say public safety, public safety. But then you're like, but hold on, dude. There's no data to suggest that this is about public safety and that this will help aiding in gun related offenses, because it won't, because that's just not the reality of it. It's a wedge move, in my opinion, and I think millions of Canadians agree. It's a political wedge move to hopefully gain some traction in the polls, and without getting too far into conspiracies, because again, I don't feel that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I just believe that there's some weird, shady shit going on, because there's no legitimate reason for our government to be, kind of prohibiting firearms from like us again, like uberantly like law-abiding citizens. It makes no sense to me. But she contradicted herself within the same breath, saying that essentially it's about public safety, but then under the same breath said that like legal gun owners are like 99% not the problem. And you're going like, well, what the fuck does that even mean then? So you said like we're not the problem for gun related incidences here across the country, sorry, but you're banning our weapons anyway. You know what I mean? It just, man, it's so infuriating. Anyway, I'm gonna play a clip from. I'm just gonna keep saying she, man, because like she doesn't even deserve to have her name mentioned. She's so frustrating to me, and I'm beyond upset. Um, and this is the other thing too. Before I play that clip, it's like, and this is a big discussion right now amongst our community, amongst firearm enthusiasts, is here we are, going again, being law abiding and responsible gun owners, to now we're put in a position where we're now all in possession of like a bunch of prohibited guns. Um, and now the question becomes like, what do you do? Like if this buyback program gains traction with local, policing agencies, and they do like literally come to your door, or send, you a letter that says like you have to turn in these firearms that you own. Um, I feel like that puts you in a weird position, because you're like, man, do I? And I'm just speaking broadly. Do I comply and go, you know, um, hand over my firearms that are now prohibited, or do I wait and kind of like you're forcing me to be a criminal until this liberal government is out, and then until the new government steps in and hopefully at the very least reverses these bans, and then again like putting in some like clear black and white um, you know ideology and metrics into what is classified as what, and what are the parameters, like true metrics, black and white metrics, like what classifies a weapon to be, sorry, not a weapon, what classifies, and this is, I say weapon because this is what they're saying all over the freaking news, and it's frustrating. It's like, dude, these aren't weapons. These aren't weapons, man. These are tools. They're hobby. They're for sporting. They're 5-round capacity mags. Like, this is a 22. How is this a militarized killing weapon? It's just so infuriating to me. But anyway, my point is, what do? Do you wait until this government changes hands, and whatever that could be, October or sooner? I don't know. It seems like nobody knows what the hell's going on in our Canadian parliament system right now. Or do you like hand over all these guns and take like a hit, because they're not going to pay you what you paid for them or what you've got invested into them. You lose on that forefront, and then 3 to 6 months later, it's like, okay, it's all kind of been reversed. You can buy all these firearms again, but yet you're probably going to be paying more now because of all these terror threats, and I think inflation is going to rise because of this. So it's like, dude, you're like making us lose money, and I guess that's what the government's also really good at doing. It's just like keeping your pockets as light as possible while they very much so irresponsibly spend our money. Anyways, I'm gonna play that clip, and yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, man, and I'm sure millions of you guys feel the same way I do. I'm just frustrated. I know Danny's super pissed. He's so mad he can't even talk. Danny. Anyways, sick pillow, by the way. One that actually I stole that from like a Secret Santa white elephant deal from Christmas with my family. Anyways, I'll play that clip for you guys, and yeah, I don't know if you're gonna get through it because I couldn't. So here we go.
My name is Rachel Bende, and I'm the Associate Minister of Public Safety and the Minister for Official Languages. I'm a proud Canadian, également une fière Québécoise. I've got my elbows up this morning. I'm here to make an announcement on gun control measures that will help save lives and keep Canadians safe. I want to start by thanking all the incredible people that are joining us today, including advocates from Police se souvient, the National Association of Women and the Law, Canadian Doctors for Protection from Guns, the Pan-Canadian Student Movement for Gun Control, the Danforth families. This is public safety policy, but it is also personal. As a mother, as a lawyer, as an elected official, and now as minister, I have been working alongside the Canadians standing with me here and many, many more for several years now, working to make our communities safer for our kids, working to make the women we know and love feel safer, working to stem the gun violence we see in our cities. We set out on an ambitious path, and it has been a long road. In 2020, our federal government banned what is now over 2,000 models of assault-style firearms. In 2022-23, our government passed legislation to freeze the market for handguns in Canada, banning the sale, transfer, and importation of handguns into the country. Just recently, in December 2024, we went further, banning some of the additional assault-style weapons that remained in the Canadian market. Today, our government is finishing the job, adding a further 179 unique makes and models of assault-style weapons to the list of prohibited firearms here in Canada. This prohibition takes effect immediately. It is our hope, our government's intention, that this be the last discrete listing of assault-style firearms for prohibition. If we finish the job well, we have all the tools necessary to ensure that new models of assault-style weapons will be captured and denied legal entry into the Canadian market. Let's be clear, these are weapons of war, firearms designed specifically to kill as many people as possible in the least amount of time possible. As with previous prohibitions, the weapons we are banning today are semi-automatic firearms with sustained rapid-fire capability. Experts have told us that they exceed safe civilian use. Aujourd'hui, nous allons de l'avant afin de resserrer le contrôle des armes à feu. I take my responsibilities as minister very seriously. In a world filled with uncertainty, my top priority is keeping Canadians safe. Firearms meant for the battlefield should never see the light of day on our streets. Canadians have seen firsthand the devastating impact of these weapons. Polytechnique, Port-au-Pique, Moncton, Dawson, the Quebec City mosque shooting. These tragedies represent dark moments in our country's history. Canadians are also very well aware of the impact of firearms in the United States, where there they experience about 600 mass shootings per year, nearly 2 per day. And those are mass shootings. In 2022, there were over 48,000 firearm-related deaths in the US. Here in Canada, our federal government has taken action to strengthen gun control and tackle gun violence head-on. As a result of the various steps we have taken, we've seen a decline in violent crime involving firearms across Canada. Data for 2023 was just recently released by Statistics Canada and shows that this decline was most pronounced in large urban areas, with a decrease of violent crime involving guns of 19% in Toronto, a decrease of 12% in Montreal, of 15% in Vancouver, and a decline of 22% in Calgary. Although homicides involving firearms had risen year over year previously, in 2023, the rate dropped by 18%. There were, in fact, 54 fewer firearm-related homicides in Canada in 2023. Reducing the number of guns in circulation helps reduce gun violence. I am happy to say that the buyback program has been underway since early December and that it is so far extremely successful. As it stands, the first phase of the program covers assault-style firearms that were prohibited in 2020 and that are in the hands of our stores and retailers. As of today, nearly 7,500 firearms have been submitted by businesses across the country for collection and destruction. The large majority of them have already been destroyed. I had the opportunity to personally witness the destruction of some of these firearms, and I want to give a sincere thanks to the men and women of the RCMP for the professionalism with which they do this work. Thank you. I'm also happy to report that the government will be ready later this spring to commence compensating Canadians. Canadian firearm owners that work with the police of jurisdiction across the country. I will leave the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP to respond to questions in that regard. But let me tell you from the political perspective how heartened I am by the interest of so many jurisdictions already. I'm happy to announce today that we have just signed a contribution agreement with the City of Winnipeg to participate in the program fully, and several agreements are on their way for signature. Before I move on, allow me to specify and to reassure Canadian hunters in particular. Even with a successful completion of the buyback program, even with the prohibition we are adding today, there are still over 19,000 unique makes and models of non-restricted firearms available for hunting and sport shooting in Canada. Today, we are taking yet another important step to strengthen gun control. Today, our government is announcing the launch of a comprehensive review of the firearms classification regime. This responds directly to a key recommendation of the Mass Casualty Commission, recommendations from an independent expert advisory panel, recommendations from industry and industry representatives, as well as calls from both gun control advocates and gun owners. We are answering that call. The current firearm classification system originated back in the 1960s. Since then, it has become ever increasingly more complex. In fact, we now have one of the most complex systems of firearm classification in the world. This creates challenges for law enforcement, and we've heard that directly from our policing partners. It also creates challenges for lawful gun owners who deserve certainty. I want to be very clear on this point. The overwhelming majority of gun owners abide by the law. But it's become harder and harder for people who want to do the right thing
Sorry, guys. I just couldn't watch any more of that. It's so upsetting. And I'm in such a terrible mood now, so I feel bad that I'm even on camera. In any event, guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. I'm going to end it here. I'm too mad. I want to go for a walk with my dog and go kind of cool out a bit. Super bummed out today. So, yeah, not a great video, so I totally understand if you don't want to click like, because there's really not much to like about that. Anyways, the weekend's ahead of us, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Stay strong, and we'll catch you on the next one.